Oh. Back in Oribos. Huh? Ah, the days. Huh? Oh, back on mic. Alright. Time to interview our lady here. It's so dead. I know. Ironic because it's in the fucking afterlife. It should be, but yeah, it's kind of sad every time it happens. It's just like one hub, just everyone just transfers. No. Okay, so we're basically we are asking Dr. Scythe to testify to the court about her involvement with Enoch Drebber and why she helped him. We kind of know why she helped him. He's like supposedly like blackmailing her, using the waxwork of the professor to like tell her, and he put a note in his pocket as well. So when she saw it, the note said like, "I know what you did with the professor. Fucking help me out." So she's saying she like helped him cover up the murder or whatever, so her secret wouldn't get out. But she basically just like confessed in the court, like, yes, everything you said is right. I tried to like make everything proceed past it, but we were like pulling her up now to try and like ask her more details about it. So that's why she's on the stand here. The waxwork plot. And the music kicks in immediately. It all began at the scene when I saw the waxwork in the note tucked inside its jacket. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which was my job. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately. They're fucking holding on. The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state secret of the highest level. I had to protect it. What's the truth, though, that you didn't kill them? Well, I was right. The stage and the machine were all specially designed for the deception. So it seems. And all meticulously prepared. You did well to see it through it. You're a very shrewd boy. Oh. So kind of you to say. What about this autopsy report, then? All I did was record the location of the body as being in the Crystal Tower instead of under the stage. That's all? That's a terrible corruption. Only my team were aware of the deceit, and then only under my explicit instructions. Nobody else at Scotland Yard knew anything about it, I assure you. God. You must be thankful for small mercies, I suppose. Well, I believe that testimony has clarified everything. There's no particular need for a cross-examination, I would say. No, I disagree. I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. Just look at that expression on Dr. Scythe's face. It's the defense's right to cross-examine any witness following testimony. What is it about you Japanese that makes you all so doggedly persistent? Jesus. Only fat lads, huh? Very well, if you so desire, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Two parts. There's about 2 parts at the end. I'm kind of curious to push. I began to see when I saw the waxwork in the note tucked inside its jacket. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which is my job, right? Pressure on that. When you say arranged, I presume you mean with this? The fucking screwdriver. Yes, the instructions in the engineer's note said something along the lines of fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Harebrain alone could have killed Asmund. So, you mean that was your doing? I fetched Harebrain's ridiculous screwdriver from the stage and took it with me alone to the abyss under the stage where the birdcage had fallen. Alone, Doctor? Nope. I didn't feel it would be appropriate to involve anybody else in that particular part of the deception. She wouldn't just fucking stab it? Because the body was like pierced. There was a void under the stage where I found the birdcage lying in the dirt. I approached it, leaned down, and slowly opened it up. Then, I took the screwdriver in both hands, and I plunged it into the man's chest. Yep. And then you noted that in your fake autopsy report as a fictitious cause of death. Yep. Exactly. So, the actual cause of death was the trauma resulting from the 30-foot drop. My word. What is it, Mrs. Sato? Something about Dr. Scythe's last statement. It's playing on my mind, that's all. Yes, mine too. Dr. Scythe. There's really no need to shout. I can hear you perfectly well. The defense calls for you to add what you just said to your formal testimony. Oh? Which part? Supplement her testimony with is... So I think in the autopsy report... So, what she has just said is in her autopsy report, she put that it was stabbed, but I think in the actual autopsy report, which she still faked, it says he died from the... No, she said he died from the fall. I think the autopsy report says he died from the puncture wound. Let me see. Autopsy report. Cause of death: hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced the heart. See. So if we get her to append the real cause of death, we can pull up the autopsy report. The real cause of death being the fall of 30 feet. That part. Fine. If that's what you want. Just stop yelling, please. The prosecution concurs. Very well. You will supplement your testimony now, witness. If you wish, my lord. So now we can pull her up with the autopsy report that she wrote. The actual cause of death was the neck trauma Asmund suffered from the 30-foot fall. Right. Here it goes.
Objection.
What? Is wrong? Hi, Farrell. Hello, Curtis, as well. You alright? You know that. Well, we pulled her up about it anyway, so... You just want to hang? Noodle is white, yeah. Okay, the actual cause of death was the neck trauma Asmund suffered from the 30-foot fall. Right, press 1. You're quite sure of that? It was as a result of a broken neck? Yes. As a professional, that was more than apparent. You'd never notice by looking at the photograph of the victim, though, would you? No, that's very true. Obviously not. Which is precisely why coroners are needed to determine the actual facts. Yes, assuming they can be trusted. There's no point calling her assessment into question without evidence. Let's get back to the testimony. Very well. You haven't missed anything, we just, like... She gave her testimony from last time. We're starting to press on just. She says she enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately, so they were all involved in the deception. The entire team in perverting the course of justice? My team consists of the very best investigators there are. I demand loyalty from all members. We operate on a code of chivalry of sorts. You aid and abet a murder, commit perjury, and dare to talk of chivalry? It was a matter of priorities. What? Nothing was more important than protecting the secret of the professor. Our team did what was necessary without losing sight of the primary goal. I consider their conduct exemplary. Ugh. Don't you see the point, Mr. Naruhodo? You mustn't let her win. I need a lawyer. I'll take that silence as tacit acceptance. No. Can we move on? She keeps saying, protect the secret of the professor. So is the secret that they didn't execute him, or is the secret his identity? I think she knew who had actually, like, the person who it was, I believe she's familiar with them, or like she was friends, or she was a relative, or something like that. The truth about the execution 10 years ago was a state secret of the highest level. I had to protect it. Right, press on that. But at what cost? Faith in Scotland Yard is going to suffer a terrible blow as a result of this. And your precious secret is out now anyway. Yes, as you say. And I take full responsibility. Throw me down. Dr. Scythe! Oh.
Hey, babes.
Hi, Christian. Thank you for the 15 months, my friend. How you doing? Surely there was some other way you could have protected the secret? No, there really wasn't. I've done my utmost, believe me. Chrissy, wake up, I don't like this. In many ways, I respect your determination. Oh, and he froze under that cold stare she said that. I do believe she's being genuine though, Mr. Naruhodo. Just packing and mentally preparing to fly back to the -17. Is that back in Norway? Jesus. That's her story. She submitted everything and revealed her full involvement in the crime. I do wonder if there could really be much more to it. Well, I don't know, but I just have a feeling. Do you, Mr. Naruhodo? Truth is that I find it strange too. At least you are reacting to this in completely opposite ways, I mean. Yes, exactly. For some reason, I feel sure they're still trying to hide something. I could go. Right, make a save. So she amended this line here about the cause of death was the neck trauma. So I tried presenting the autopsy report, which disagrees. But what's the additional observation? A broken vertebrae most likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall. But this says the cause of death was the stab, whereas now she says the cause of death was the neck trauma. But I presented the autopsy report and it didn't work. So I'm going to push her all the 2 points. We'll push her about when she saw the waxwork and the note. From what you described before, it sounds like the note was anonymous. Did you have any idea of who was behind it? There are very few people in the know about what really happened 10 years ago to start with. But anyway, I'd never heard of this engineer. So no, I had no idea. Yet despite not knowing who was behind the plan, you went along with it? I had no choice. Protecting the professor's secret was my only concern. She definitely knows who it is. Well, she saw them being executed, so she would have seen them under, like, their face, but she knows them. But the horse has bolted now, and the stable door will never shut again. Scotland Yard's reputation will be immeasurably damaged as a result of all this. Yes, thank you, Lord Van Zix. I'm well aware of that. So, as I understand it, what you found in the birdcage was the waxwork model. Where, then, was the victim's body? Okay, next point. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the notes instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. Okay. After this, we pressed everything. So you knew about that special construction of the stage used to carry out the trick then? It was quite obvious what had happened with the victim and the waxwork. And you switched the two over, didn't you? In other words, you recorded the victim's body as having been discovered in the Crystal Tower. And the waxwork? I wrapped it and sent it by carriage to the specified address at the specified time. And why were you given such directions? Presumably so it could be recovered by Drebber and returned to Madame Tuspel's. I see. And then you put the birdcage back on the experimentation stage. I love it when Van Zix is just like adding information, not being a dick. Yes. Although someone obviously made a mistake about which cage should go where. I thought I'd made it perfectly clear to the team, but still. I suppose you were focused on the victim's body, that being a more important detail. Fuck, we pressed her and everything else. We need to start presenting some information. We got this new information here. There has to be something we can present. Bum, 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 bum. Jam. Okay. I don't know why presenting the autopsy report didn't work. Let's make a new save. Bum, ba, 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 bum. Yeah, this is episode 3. I think there's 5 episodes in this game, so it's a big game. Really presenting this doesn't work?
Objection.
No. Doesn't work. Her two statements are clearly contradictory though, but the game doesn't consider that enough of a point. The actual cause of death was a neck trauma Asmund suffered from the 30. Every time I fucking see Asmund, I think of Asmongold time. Every time. Right, look at the screwdriver. Nothing more to it. Crossbow, the cloth, the photograph. You'd say she stabbed it. The actual cause is the neck trauma. Okay. God, you're not alone in that? Like when it says Odi Asmund, I don't think it... When it just says Asmund, like now, I'm like... They fucking killed Asmongold, huh? His neck was broken from the impact of a violent fall and he was stabbed in the chest with a sharp object, but this specifically says cause of death was the stab wound. But she's not. She's saying something different. But yet these don't count as contradictory evidence, apparently. I don't know. I pressed her on everything now. And this line here was amended on, which is usually important because it means you have something new you can like attack. But I don't know. The photograph maybe?
Objection.
No. Awkward, right? It's like, so this line here which says she saw the waxwork, so we asked her about that and she talked about like finding the note, protecting the secret, not really know who sent it. I pressed the amended, yeah, it did, yeah. Didn't really give us anything new. And Drebber didn't react to anything she said. Sometimes you can like jump over and like attack them, but I'll press this again, I'll show you what it says. So basically asking her, are you sure? And she says yes. It was more than apparent. Sato says, you would never notice by looking at the photo of the victim though, because it had been stabbed. And she says, obviously not, you need to be a professional to like point it out basically. And he goes, yes. You're gonna... Yeah, assuming the professional can be trusted to give a right statement. And she goes, blah, 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 blah. And then Van Zieks is like, don't call her out if you can't prove it. Let's get back to you. And that's really it. And that talks about her getting the entire team to help her, and then this gets her to talk about, like, it doesn't really reveal anything else, more is that she did reveal the secret, not that of the identity, but that the fact that the execution 10 years ago was a failure. Unless the screwdriver is like wet blood. But if the body was dead, the blood wouldn't be as... That sounds stupid, right? Asmund, who defends Mr. Asmund is the problem with looking at murder weapons. So she's saying he fell, broke his neck, and then she stabbed him. That's what she's claiming. The autopsy report, which is bullshit, says that the cause of death was the stab wound. and that he was already alive. He was still alive when he was stabbed. I was trying to like find a way to present it. Maybe present the weapon?
Objection.
No. Hmm. Bit of stuff on my screen. Maybe something to do with the bird cage. The fact it's like broken at the bottom doesn't really mean anything. You can still have broken his. Oh no, wait. That was showing that it didn't crash head first, right? Maybe the bird cage.
Objection.
Fuck, man. What does it take? I'm trying to poke holes in our statement, but I fucking can't find them. No, you can't really present people in this one. You can only really present people when it like specifically like prompts you. It's like, who are you talking about? And it'll show the people. Yeah, so I pressed every statement to whatever we do now has to be presenting evidence at something. The body had to be arranged in certain ways. This is where she talks about stabbing him again. Like, if I press this again, she'll probably talk about the story where she stabs him. Right. Merely carrying out the engineer's instructions. In his words, fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Harebrained alone could have killed Asmon. If she goes on her own, it'll show the body now. She leaned down over it, opened it up, and takes it with both hands and stabs him. But fucking Drebber just like stays completely silent. After that, it was simply a matter of recording the stab wound as the cause of death in the autopsy report. The real cause of death being the fall, of course. Okay, so she's admitting the autopsy report is faked. Okay, so that's fine. I think it would be appropriate. I'm sure you could ask Dr. Scythe to change the supplementary testimony she gave before. Ah, here we go. There we go, okay. Have her change it. Okay. Not about the fall anymore, then. Dr. Scythe, what you said before about what you did to the victim's body, I believe that may be significant, so could you change your supplementary statement to explain that instead? Very well. There were two things. I thought I got it right, but I got it wrong. But what she's saying said, I stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest. Right, we'll press that.
Hold it.
So it was you who stabbed Asmon with this? Yes. Far easier than dissection, I assure you. No precision required. What a welcome change. The victim died instantly from a snapped neck. All I did was carry out the instructions I had been given. As unflinchingly as ever, no doubt. But now she's saying... Oh, she's... Keep forgetting she's already admitted her thing was wrong. Okay. As unflinchingly as ever, no doubt. I imagine you didn't bat an eyelid when you drove the weapon into his body. It would have been... It's just meat or whatever, I guess. There was no need to bat my eyelids. And what else did you do to twist the facts? Remind the court, why don't you? If you wish. Stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest. So it says the screwdriver was found poking through the grill in the base, but presumably she planted it then, right? she planted it then, so... So the location's probably not a thing. Like, can we say, like, why was the screwdriver found somewhere else then? I'm gonna try it anyway. It probably doesn't work, but...
Objection!
It's hard, man. It says that there's no blood in the birdcage? It is a photo of the body, yeah. After she has stabbed it. Showing the supposed stab wound. But he seemingly was stabbed, so... Oh, there's blood here, isn't there? There's blood there, but there's no blood on the birdcage. Right. Very clean looking. So this is the one that crashed into the... That's the thing, right? It who knows what. So there's two bird cages. The one that fell and the one that plunged into the crystal tower, but they still would have impacted. But what one's this? The wooden cage that was used for the demonstration had crashed down with the victim inside into the crystal tower, causing damage. Crystal tower causing damage to its base. Well, we know that's wrong now. This one had the wooden statue in it. Yeah, it had the dummy in it, or the waxwork. The screwdriver was found on the stage, yeah. But she's claiming that she did it, and then she just planted it to make it look like he did it. Make it look like Harebrained did it. It's like I'm not sure like which birdcage this was. Like it says it was used for the demonstration. It crashed down, but
objection.
Nah. Okay. So this birdcage where he was is not the birdcage that toppled into the tower. But everyone knows that. Everyone knows it was a farce. This birdcage with no blood, it's not the same as this birdcage where he was in. I'm just trying to remember what has been revealed so far, you know. That's the bottom of the floor. Don't know how the thing would get stuck in the grill then if that got blown open. Yeah, that's what happened there. So they do the experiment. The floor falls through. He falls through. Lands. Seemingly died with the broken neck. And then she went over and stabbed him. Like under the stage. This also says apparent stab wound. Yeah, so this says the autopsy report says the cause of death was the stab, but now she's saying that's not true. That he died with a broken neck, with the fall, and the stab was post-death, is what she's saying.
Objection.
Okay. Thought of someone with the picture. Got a nasty feeling. What if he was stabbed before? It's inconsistent. That's what I'm thinking as well, Feral. Yeah, like, your blood's not pumping, right? I don't know what happens. Yeah. Because your heart's stopped, right? So it's not actually pumping blood. Maybe it's still... I'm assuming it still leaks. But your blood's not actively pumping. Stab in the front. Died in the back. Well. I got one. Party in the front. That one, right? Business in the front, party in the back. That one. What on earth is the matter, Council? Have you lost your tongue? I apologize, my lord. Dr. Scythe, in that last statement of yours, there's just one point. It seems to defy explanation. Is it that she couldn't get into the... I don't know. Could she not get into the cage or something? Okay. Out with it, my learned friend. There's an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph. It happens, sure. Chose the victim in the bird cage following the events that led to his death.
Objection!
Right, Banzeeks, what do we got? The court has already examined that photograph in depth. There's nothing new we can learn from it.
Objection.
Yes, we have already considered it. That's true. But we now know the facts to be different. What do you mean? I believe we should let the defense explain. Fuck. Where in this photograph will we see the alleged inconsistency with the witness's statement? Is it the blood splatter? I stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest. Okay. Your heart's more on that side, right? Like you're more your left side. Is it his mustache? Is it a bit suspicious looking at that time? It's his right? No, it's his left, right? Lying like... I'm mirrored. I'm touching my left shoulder right now. That says left. Right. Is the game mirrored? Well, that's his left side. Huh? If he's lying down, that's his left. Is it like where she would stab him or something? I don't know. Oh, the cursor was... Oh, sorry. The cursor was just idling. All she said was she stood over him and stabbed him, right? Yeah, all she said is I stood over him where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest. That's all she said. Time to Google, do bodies bleed after death? Fucking... the fucking MI5's gonna be after my hey? For one thing, the dead normally can't bleed for very long. Livor mortis, when blood settles to the lowest part of the body, begins soon after death, and the blood is set within about 6 hours. I know you explained, but I just want, like, for time, like, I wanted, like, an official thing to read. No, I don't know why. I want to actually think it does. I don't want to just guess it. Because I kind of just guessed presenting the photo on that, but if that's not right, then it's not right. Okay. It's his mustache. I don't know if it's a blood splatter. Alright, if it's wrong, we'll have a good think about it. Blood splatter's my only real guess.
Take that!
Look closely at the blood stain on the victim's chest. It clearly extends in a downwards direction towards the man's feet. As in he wouldn't... Yeah, he was stabbed before. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If he was lying down, it would have, like, fallen sideways, right? Well, to be fair, I did theorize that he was stabbed beforehand. So... Why is that significant, Counsel? If the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion, that's entirely expected. Ah, of course. No, that's not what happened. Exactly, my lord. Dr. Scythe made it very clear in her testimony just now that the point at which she stole Professor Hairbrain's screwdriver and stabbed the victim after he fell was after the grand deception was set in motion, when the birdcage had fallen below the stage out of sight. From the shape of it, it's clear that the birdcage would have fallen on its side after the 30-foot drop. And if the victim had really been stabbed whilst inside the birdcage in that position, the blood from the wound would have spread out equally in all directions. It's almost like a gunshot, right? Someone standing up, it drips downwards. For it to have formed the longitudinal appearance we see in the picture, it is conceivable. Inconceivable. Oh. Ah! Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downwards from the wound, it must be the case that when you stabbed Mr. Osmond, he was standing up. In short, Dr. Scythe, your latest testimony was a total fabrication. Ah! Ah! Golly. And yet, I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction. There's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here. What? What sort of misapprehension? Dr. Scythe. You claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber as a result of the note he left in the waxwork. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim that you authored a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an out-and-out lie. Because the question of what the bloodstain really tells us has only one possible answer. Is it... He was killed after. So he was either killed when he was like on the stage, or like he fell through. He lived, and then she stabbed him or something and put him back in. If that is the case, what is it, man? And fucking Van Zieg's just like, tell us the truth. Counsel, you've clearly struck upon a revelation. Now tell the court what it is. Which part of Dr. Scythe's story is shown to be a lie by the contradiction in her testimony? Fuck. When you're like trying to catch up as well, it's like trying to put the information together can be like a lot. Was he stabbed on stage, or was did he fall through, get up, and like, alright lads, it's time to go, and then she fucking gets him? That's fucking if he lived and then he like got stabbed, but he had so the autopsy report says he has broken vertebrae. Whether that's true is a different story, but did this man get up and like, right boys, fucking done and done, and then she jumps at him like a horror movie villain? Or was he stabbed on stage? I think they would have seen that though. You claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber as a result of the note he left in the waxwork. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim that you authored a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an out-and-out lie. It's either the stabbing or the coercion, I think. Music is too hype. I need to think. So the note that she found on the waxwork says like, I know what you did with the professor, you will help me, or something like that. Yeah, I think it's either the stabbing or the coercion. Well, it's always great when you know immediately and you're like on top of it. There's no shame in not knowing immediately. What part of Dr. Scythe's story is going to be a lie? I feel like it has to be the stabbing, right? The answer is very simple if you consider the sequence of events. If when the victim was stabbed, the blood from the wound seeped downward as it did, we can be sure that the victim must have been either sitting or standing upright at the time. As you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage. Yes, it would. Which tells us that the victim must have been in that position of his own accord.
Objection!
That's impossible. The man was dead, remember? No, that is a misapprehension. Yep. The birdcage fell from the stage into the void below. It must have hit the ground with considerable force. And then he sits up. That's what I said. He fucking get up. So Mr. Asman didn't die in the fall. So this paralleling the professor case, right? Because the professor didn't die initially either. And then she fucking comes and stabs him. He probably lost consciousness for a while, but when he came around, he got to his feet to climb out of the cage. Just as Dr. Scythe appeared. If the victim was in fact alive at that point in time, it changes everything. It makes her a murderer. It changes her from an accomplice to like hiding something to An actual murderer. That's the big change, right? Mr. Odie Asmon's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert Harebrain. Nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Enoch Drebber. It was you, Dr. Courtney Scythe. Ah! Order, order, order. Can this possibly be true? Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, was it? You killed him? Oh, she stole his revenge. No! The man didn't get to do it. Oh, he's fucking ripping now. You hope that by admitting to be an accomplice in Dr. Drebber's scheme, the trial would end. So that's why she was fucking cutting it off short, because if it went further, we would find out what actually happened. Before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder. Oh, do shut up. You're so desperate now you're making all this up. As if I would do something like that.
Objection.
Oh, Susato. I assure you the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Naruhodo has established the facts using evidence and logic alone. Facts and logic, huh? Logic? Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it. What? What do you mean? I'd have thought it was obvious. A motive, boy. You're lacking a motive. What possible reason would I have to kill Mr. Asmon? Asmon was involved in any number of criminal activities, from coercion to theft to murder. But there's no known connection to Dr. Scythe there. I'm rather relieved to say it does seem somewhat far-fetched. Is it because of Odie Asmon's involvement with the professor thing? Like, remember he did the drawing? I'm rather relieved to say it does seem somewhat far-fetched. There's no obvious motive. But there's still something in the back of my mind. I feel sure I've seen something somewhere that hints at why the coroner might have done this. Guess I might have tampered with the crime scene and concocted a fake report. But murdering someone for no reason is a very different story.
Objection.
No. When you questioned what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asmon, something did come to mind. We do have her name on some things. He was involved. But Drebber was the one who actually saw it. So she was there when he was confirmed to have died. So Odie Asmon did the drawing. I have an idea. Did she think that the person in the cage was Drebber? And she wanted to kill Drebber because he saw the professor? And she wanted to keep his identity secret? Could that be an idea? Or was Odie Asmon like introduced on stage? Maybe that scraps it. Okay, we'll see it through and see what's out. That's an idea that came to mind. What? Right, that's her big thing. She wants to keep that secret safe. What was it, Council? Enlighten the court at once. Yes. We saw it yesterday, didn't we? Something that seemed strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Scythe would have wanted to kill Mr. Asmon. What were the scalpels? Scalpels. I don't remember any scalpels. The screwdriver, the iron mask. There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Scythe would have wanted to kill Mr. Asmon. Scalpels? Where have scalpels shown up in this trial before, Chanting? that we've seen. We've seen both the Iron Mask and the Screwdriver. What the fuck do you mean by scalpels? Yeah, but it seems weird to throw it in there if it's just completely like... I mean, they could have just thrown in fucking dog shit or something like that if it means nothing, you know? That obviously, like, has some relevance. Maybe in a report? Maybe. Did we see the scalpels in her office? Is that where we saw the scalpels? Remember we went into her operating room? Is that where we saw scalpels? And Renosuke says we didn't think it was weird at the time. The problem is now I can't look up to confirm whether that was true because it'll probably be like, the scalpels revealed it, blah 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 blah, and then like, I can't look. I think there were scalpels in her medical office, in like the morgue or whatever. Fuck. Yep. What did Renosuke say? Something we saw yesterday that something that seemed strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. When you questioned what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asman, something did come to mind. Did she stab him with a scalpel? Particular object. So the Iron Mask is the mask on the dummy, right? But we found that in Drebber's place. Unless it's the fact that the dummy mask actually does have the actual face underneath it, like a model of the actual face. So maybe we didn't think of much of the mask at the time, but now that we know that the two spells actually modeled the real face underneath the mask, maybe it's more important now. We'll try the mask, I think. It's the Iron Mask. You've lost me. Huh? Sorry, Mr. Naruhodo. Why the Iron Mask? See, I think I'm wrong. Is it the... What's with the fucking scalpels? Well, all the things I saw yesterday left the greatest impression, so... If the wee things pop up now, the wee, like, health indicators, we got it wrong. Really have no idea what you're talking about. I think I must have said the wrong thing. What were the fucking scalpels? There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Scythe would have wanted to kill Mr. Asman. Asmongold, why do you fucking do you? Who's the Sith Lord? That's Kazuma. The one standing beside Van Zieks. Bro, you been here for that too? Yeah, like they Van Zieks was reported with like being seen with like an assistant. Where have I been? So Van Zieks was reported to have been seen with an apprentice, and we find out that Lord Strongheart assigned this person to Van Zieks to be trained as a prosecutor, and he's standing beside Van Zieks right now in the trial. Every time you see Van Zieks, you'll see him. But whenever Ryunosuke and Susato are around him, he reminds them of Kazuma. And they're almost definite that it is Kazuma. And they think back to the previous game when there was some weirdness where they never saw Kazuma's body. So it's pretty much implied that it's Kazuma, and he has amnesia. So. And he somehow lived, like, from his injury in or his death in the first game. They had the accident. But we don't know yet. But it's very heavily implied as him. But yeah, he doesn't know who they are. But, like, every time he walks past, they're like, Kazuma. Yeah. What's the fucking screwdriver? What are the what's the fucking scalpels, eh? The scalpel, or rather, scalpels. Did you say scalpels? It's the scalpels? What? Were they just in her office? I think they were just there. See, the fact that I remember them being somewhat in her office is something. But I can't look it up because I'll spoil. I'll fucking see a spoiler. But this will remind us now. I think. It appears the word has struck a chord, Doctor. You, come on, out with it. It was yesterday when we visited your laboratory. I told you there were fucking scalpels in her lab, but I couldn't remember what they were. Look at this big thick book here. That appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh? What is it? It's clear that the team purchased various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but, well, one entry seems rather strange. Really? In what way? They're buying 500 scalpels every month. Oh. Didn't remember this. Scalpels, huh? $500 scalpels a month? At first I wondered what on earth you could be using that many scalpels for. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that are significant. It's the money for them. Disappearing every month from the department's accounts. Asmon's criminal organization relied heavily on extortion for its funding. Tracing the money from the forensic investigation team's account to find out where it was going would be extremely straightforward. Oh, I fucking caught now. 10 years ago, when Mr. Asmon was still a journalist and wrote this article about Mr. Drebber, he may well have stumbled upon information as he was researching the story. Information relating to Dr. Scythe's darkest secret that he would use to rack money from her for the next decade. Rip. Her darkest secret? Good lord, you mean... I don't know what happened on the night of that execution 10 years ago. But clearly the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. They both wanted to kill him. But she stole it from Drebber. So in the end, you weren't coerced at all, were you? You did it entirely of your own free will. You stabbed Mr. Asmon in the heart with all your might. You silenced the blackmailer who knew your dark secret forever. Deep secret. You'll never understand. None of you. Uh-oh. What we've had to keep covered up all these long years. Deep secret. Any enemies? There's Kazuma. Yeah, he had too many. Huh? Well, he's like a criminal mob boss, really. So. And Drebber's just like the whole time. He's like the whole tension just shifted away. Oh, here we go. The tension shifted away from him. As very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb. The truth of this case can never be properly established unless you speak out. And if you decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney Scythe will escape punishment for her crimes. Please, sir, own up to what you've done. And tell the court the truth about what happened. 10 years ago, you told the truth. And you were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. Because of Odie Asmon. I can certainly understand your bitterness and your consternation now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for. Sever the hold that fate's had all over you all these years. Come on, Drebber, do the right thing. Super high voltage, instantaneous kinesis. I mean, really? It's the adult-brained mock scientists that are the worst, you know. They don't recognize the fact that they don't have talent. They can't even get that right. And so they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities. They go on and on about their wonderful hypotheses, their stupid eyes shining like a little child's. They make me sick. I can't abide their foolishness. Careful, Mr. Drebber. I was particularly pleased with the kinesis machine. It made for quite a show, didn't it? He's a trickster as well, right? He's an illusionist. Do you admit it? You admit that it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim? Yes, I admit it. There we go. I did it all in the name of revenge. Revenge for the future that Mr. Osmond's article had deprived you of 10 years earlier. But the revenge you sought didn't stop at Osmond, did it? Which is where that very particular waxwork comes in. Yes, I see. The condemned convict you saw rising from the grave in Lowgate Cemetery 10 years ago. If your account of those events was all true, then obviously Scotland Yard couldn't afford to acknowledge what had happened. Even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have had. So he got fucked by the journalist and he got fucked by the cops. So your plan required that you abduct that particular waxwork model in order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well. Or on Dr. Scythe, to be precise. It was a year ago. By some extraordinary twist of fate, Osmond turned up at my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer. And he happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye. About the coroner who'd handled that bogus autopsy being appointed head of a new forensic team. When I learnt that news, my cognitive process started to devise the plan. What a horrid tale. He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own wiles against him, for revenge. And have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I had to suffer. Man got fucked. He had a terrible experience. He told the truth. And his whole life was destroyed because of it. Your actions against those who'd ruined your future were justified as revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly, no one has the right to destroy another's prospects, especially for purely selfish gain. And yet, in carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you? Did I? Professor Harebrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis, but he had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your revenge. You knew that he would be forever branded a failure and a fraud. Nope. It's doing to others what happened to you, right? Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. But remember this. Your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent young man. Continuing the cycle of, not violence, but the cycle of, I don't know, discrediting, ruining people's lives. Aye. Aye. Damn. Lord Van Zieks, what of Dr. Scythe? An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted and she's been remanded in custody, my lord. Look, I presume she will face trial in the coming days, along with Mr. Drebber. A most regrettable situation indeed. He's made great contributions to your profession over the years. It really is a hard truth to swallow. However, that is a topic for some future occasion. For now, Professor Harebrain. There he is. Oh, yes? It seems there was a great deal more to your experiment than you realized. However, I think we can assume now that all the sordid details have been brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say you're absolved of all guilt. This whole experience has taught me a very great but painful lesson. This dedicated scientist, this devotee of natural philosophy. I've been selfish and self-centered and above all, a fool. Professor. Van Zieks, talk to him as your old friend, eh? Excuse me. I spent my life thinking of nothing but my research. Misguidedly believing that I could do whatever I set my mind to despite my lack of talent. And the worst of it is, in the process, I've caused others pain and misery. Others who are far, far greater people than I. No, Professor. That's not true. What? Don't tar yourself with the same brush as Drebber. What happened was his doing, and his alone. Elio, this outcome is his fate, not yours. You're not to blame in any way. Van Zieks. And the derision with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even. The man has no idea. To believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone to realize your dreams. That's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for such choices. Oh. Thank you, Baroque. Like Van Zieks, So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. It is the court's expectation that you find the defendant not guilty of the charge of which he stands accused. I presume there are no objections. None from me, my lord. Certainly not. This trial has really made me think, but this is the right decision. It's all been proven methodically and rigorously. I have no misgivings whatsoever.
What's that? He's done, is he? It's all over.
I don't know what's become of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place. Very well. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant not guilty.
Woo! He's free.
Courtroom fireworks, let's go. Court is adjourned. The fucking scalpel thing. It's all about the money here. It's over. That some trial. I've heard a little like post courtroom chatter. 24th of October, 4:23 p.m. The Old Bailey. Defendant antechamber. Professor, what a splendid outcome, isn't it? Oh, it is, it is. Congratulations, Professor Harebrain. Man's fucking wrecked. Mr. Naruhodo, Miss Sasato, I am truly beside myself with gratitude. How can I ever thank you enough? I'm just glad it's all been cleared up. Do you realize you were just caught up in a bad situation? Right now, you know, if I had that research grant money, I'd give the whole world not to you, every penny. Well, that's very kind, but I'm just a student, so we don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal is more than enough. Oh dear. Oh, what can I do? Aha! How about this as a memento? The paper about my hypothesis is inside. Little tiny book. Well, just as a memento then. Thank you. I've been wondering, Professor. What are you going to do now? Oh my. Yes. What am I going to do? My hypothesis and my great machine lie in ruins. But still, It's been too long since I was last in London, so perhaps I'll enjoy some sightseeing. I must explore the Great Exhibition whilst I'm here too, and see if new inspiration hits me. Oh yes, that's a wonderful idea. I can't allow that. Oh. This is Van Ziek's or Shomes. Yep. Lord Van Zieks, what are you doing in here? He wants to see his friend. Varrock. I'm sorry you had to go through that, Albert. Well, if I'm honest, it was terrifying. You were like a great demon behind your bench there, snarling down on your prey. I love Van Ziek's theme. You're one of the few true friends I have. I couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution or the defense. Sorry? Or the defense? Did I just hear that right? Let's go! I always knew you had my best interests at heart, don't worry. Van Zieks respects us in his own way. Yeah. A compliment this economy. You'll never say it out loud, though. How about you show me around while I'm here in town? It's been a long time since we left university. You have a lot to catch up on. Come on, Van Zieks, go fucking get lunch or something. Listen, Albert. In a few days, your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I'll accompany you. What? From there, you'll cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets. Yeah, there was like kind of an understanding between the two of them at the end of the last game. Yeah, he's just very stubborn and he won't admit it. But no, hold on a minute, Varrock. What about the Great Exhibition? This is a chance of a lifetime for me. I want to look around. No sightseeing, Albert. Give up on the idea. Sometimes it's hard to see any warmth in those eyes, Varrock. Lord Van Zieks? What's all this about? A necessary precaution. Yes, I think I understand. You do? Well, Iris told me that when you met Lord Van Zieks at his office some days ago, he asked how Mr. Natsume was doing. Yes, that's right. I remember being surprised at the time, and thinking it was nice of him to ask. The point is, Mr. Natsume is still alive and well. It's like the curse, right? The curse of the Reaper. Even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor. You mean the Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas? Those in the Reaper's sights meet their ends days or sometimes months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up to now. But of course, we know that both Mr. Natsume and Gina were completely innocent. True. And perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. The truly innocent are spared. Oh, that's right, Van Zieks believes like it's like the ghost of his dad or something, doesn't he? Or the ghost of his brother or something. That's like... No, so we had something in this trial where they talked about the curse. And they believe it's like a ghost or something that's following Van Zieks or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they actually talked about it. The Van Zieks has like... They call him the Reaper of the Bailey, but they believe there actually is like a spectre or something like that follows him. The truly innocent are spared. But I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend. But Varrock. Like the mustache Nipponese, this man should leave the country without delay. By Natsume or Kuzuki. That's why I'm packing him off to Germany at once. Right. Does your friend-shaped package get any say in it? Goodness, was this your intention all along then, Lord Van Zieks? In court, where people think of him as the Reaper, this man seems absolutely merciless, and yet, sometimes I feel as though I don't understand him at all. It's time to go, Albert. Back to the prison for the time being. Yes, alright. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you so much for everything. Not at all, Professor. It was a pleasure getting to know you. Best wishes, Professor Harebrain. Well, once the dust has settled, you must come and visit me in Germany. Anyway, goodbye for now. See ya. Now, my Nipponese friend. Oh, yes. Thought you'd gone too. We have matters to discuss. Can you spare me some time? Oh. I'm very curious, right? So, I think the last game was one of the modern day ones, right? I think it was Ace Attorney 6. I don't know if there's another game in development. I hope so. Like, I really like them. I wonder, will they do another, like, modern day one, or will they do, like, a Great Ace Attorney 3? Because this is there's only 2 of them. So, I'd be very curious. Hopefully they're working on, like, re-releasing 4, 5, and 6 as, like, a new trilogy, like, a new modern trilogy. Because right now, on, like, PC and modern consoles, you can only play the first 3, the first trilogy, and then Great Ace Attorney 1 and 2. You can't play the 4, 5, and 6. So hopefully they're working on remastering those. That's kind of what I hope for right now. What was one Zeke want to discuss? You want to talk with me? I'll be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes. Does he want to talk about his apprentice? That was strange. For some reason, I didn't get that sense of impending doom as he walked away this time. Let's go. The Enigma, Barak Van Zieks. What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer awaits in the courtroom, I suppose. There goes then. Time to see. 24th of October, 4:58 p.m. The Old Bailey courtroom. Yeah, it has to be by Kazuma, right? See if he's here. So, are you satisfied? You saved the guileless scientist from a great injustice. Yes, I think so. I'm relieved, at least, that the man's innocence could be proven. Anyway, I imagine you've been wondering where my animosity towards you Nipponese comes from. Fucking yes, we're gonna find out, hey. I assumed it was something to do with the professor. Like, the professor killed his brother, and the professor might have been Japanese, but I think that theory got stomped. Like, it was crushed, so I don't know. Well, at first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagine you saw me as a pretentious child from an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now, I think differently. You clearly know our ways. So I would guess that some specific incident led to your thorough dislike of my race. Will you tell me what happened, please? Ah, boys, it feels good. Right, what about it though? To say my initial idea was that the professor was Japanese. But he doesn't know the professor's identity, so I don't think that's right, but I'm glad it's at least associated with it. I'm sort of right. Professor. I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest. He took your brother's life. Clint. My brother was Clint Van Zieks. 16 years ago, when I was still just in my teens, he was already the director of prosecutions and a key member of the judiciary. I looked up to him. He was everything I aspired to be. Posada was like watery eyes, or like, He was involved in the establishment of justice systems in foreign countries as well. Oh. What happened with his brother in Japan? There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations then too, to share knowledge and ideas. As part of one of those programs, 3 judicial students came to Britain from your homeland, the Empire of Japan. Uh-oh. Oh. If it was 16 years ago, then one of them could have been my father. Of course. I remember Dr. Mikutaba well. Oh. I had no idea. I was a minor at the time, training at the prosecutor's office. One day, Clint introduced me to 3 visiting Nipponese. So, you've actually met my father? He and his colleagues were polite and amicable. They were adept at their work and exacting in their standards. Maybe? I'd be curious. Like, does he suspect one of them was the professor? No. It was my first encounter with the Nipponese spirit, and it made a very great impression upon me. But 6 years later, that's when it happened. That's when the Professor case happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects even, just an ever-growing list of victims. And in the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally resolved. I'm so sorry, Lord Von Zieks. Truly. Clint was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway. He wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer, but it was his victory in the end. For me personally, though, it was a great loss. I find myself in a very dark place indeed. When I finally found out the killer's identity, the reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time. In plain sight? Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? It was a period of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires. A new treaty was being forged, I think. Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation was being concluded. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussions. Which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial. If the British public had known the identity of the killer, not only would the treaty have been in jeopardy, but our two nations could very well have ended up at war. What? A war between Britain and Japan? That would mean... Oh my. You mean to say the Professor was...
When the trial reached its conclusion earlier, I thought to myself, yes, it's time. Time for you to come face to face with this hideous monster. I borrowed the key for the mask from the proprietress of the Waxwork Museum.
Oh, we're gonna see the...
So see for yourselves.
Professor is...
Confirm it with your own eyes. The truth that's been hidden this past decade.
That's the Professor?
Yes, that's him.
Until now, the thought never even crossed my mind. That the mass murderer, whose crimes shook Britain as never before, was Japanese.
I was right. Let's go.
Wait a minute. That face.
That was my theory, right? The Professor was Japanese, that's why he hates him.
I feel as though I've seen it somewhere.
Uh-oh.
It's strangely familiar.
Kazuma.
Father.
What? Father? Kazuma! My best friend, Kazuma Asogi. After a whole year, finally his memories returned. As he stood there before me, Ryunosuke. Hello again. My friend.
Kazuma!
Judicial Assistant Mikotoba.
It's been a very long road. Thank you. Thank you for guiding my friend here when I could not.
It was an honor.
I knew you wouldn't die that easily. Kazuma.
I owe you thanks, too, for taking good care of that in my absence.
The sword.
Oh. Karuma, the great blade of the Asogi clan, passed down through the generations. When we left Japan, this sword was at my friend's side. A Japanese man's katana is his soul, and he couldn't be parted from it. But then, when the incident happened, it was Susato-san's wish that I inherit the sword, and I've kept it with me ever since, along with my memories of the friendship we shared. With this by my side, I always felt that you were watching over me somehow.
I've made it. At last.
Father. Are you saying... Surely not. You mean, you knew all this time? I'm looking at it, but I still can't believe it. This mass murderer is Kazuma's father.
Kazuma-sama.
Ryunosuke, we have much to talk about, but now is not the time.
Looking good in your drop blue.
I'll be seeing you.
That's all Kazuma said. Before he turned and left us there, in the courtroom.
Ah! He's a living after image of the man who took my brother's life, is he? I'm so glad my theory was right. Like, yes. Yes, Kazuma Asugi, my best friend. 3 months ago, when Lord Strongheart introduced us. I had an inkling there was something there, some connection. Why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord Van Zieks' apprentice? When he was suffering amnesia too. The man was apprehended, even executed. But his legacy just won't die. That's the sad truth. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I thank you for meeting with me, as I asked. "10 years ago, my grandmother took me to the railway station. We were there to meet my father from the train. For me, was the first time I'd ever seen him. Versus Sato-san. All this is tied up with painful memories for her too. She'd never talked about this with me before, so... Took time to adjust to having father around, but just when I was starting to get used to it, he called me into his study one day. He told me that a great friend of his had passed away in London, and that the friend had left behind a son, a boy 7 years my senior. Father told me the boy had made a promise to his late father, that he was studying to become a defense lawyer. I wanted to help, so I studied to become a qualified judicial assistant. As I'm sure you've worked out, that young man's name was Kazuma Asugi. So you see, that's how you and I met. That was good, yeah.
For a brief moment, my great friend had returned, only to disappear again all too soon. But in that fleeting encounter, something stirred. Something that had been dormant for a long time. As if great wheels had been set in motion, I could almost hear them creaking into life. In some ways, it was the end of a chapter, but in many, it was the start of a new one.
Let's go! That was excellent. Twisted Karma and his last bow. I think isn't his last bow Sherlock Holmes? Isn't that like the last Sherlock Holmes story when he dies fighting Moriarty? His Last Boy, a novel by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Yep. Yeah, it's the I mean, maybe not the one he dies, but it is a Sherlock Holmes story. Yeah. Yeah, very good. So, just a little wrap up of the case. So, as earlier in the towards the very beginning of the case, when you go to visit Van Zieks in his apartment, or his office, and you see Kazuma for the first time, and Van Zieks brings up the fact that his brother was killed by the professor, and immediately then I was like, Professor was Japanese. So I'm glad that theory was true. And also, I don't know if you remember, I've definitely said this to Noodle, but a while ago, before we started playing this game, after we beaten the first one, I accidentally saw a spoiler for this game. And whenever I saw it, I was like, fuck! I was really annoyed that I saw it. The spoiler was that Kazuma was alive. And he has like a masked costume. So I was like, shit, I wish I didn't know that. But the one thing I was very glad of, but it wasn't too bad. The one thing I was very glad of is that as soon as... So knowing it is kind of bad, right? And he doesn't appear until the third adventure. But the one thing I was very glad about, even if I didn't... So I kind of went into the game with the knowledge that he was alive, which is kind of like, oh, that's unfortunate. The good thing is, though, as soon as Ryunosuke meets him, he begins to heavily suspect that it's Kazuma. So even if I didn't know that, from the reintroduction of the character, you pretty much know who it is. But still, I could have gone into the game without that knowledge at all, right? So it's not that bad. If it was a big plot point in the adventure, and I was sitting through the whole adventure being like, I know who it is, that would have been worse. But it's pretty much confirmed at the very beginning that's who it is. So it didn't actually spoil anything like gameplay wise, which I was really grateful for, because I thought that was going to impact how I was going to play the thing. I would do like fake that I didn't know who it was, but the characters are like, that's Kazuma. So nothing like, so like he wasn't in the first two adventures at all. So I didn't have to be like, I wonder who that is, and the characters don't address him. As soon as the characters meet him, that's like, they're like, Ryunosuke and Susato were like, do you think? Yeah. That's one thing I'm actually very grateful for. But apart from that, I know nothing. So Going into this, the last two, I do not know. But yes, we're gonna take a little break. Because these adventures are quite long, especially that one was a fucking beefy boy. And it got kind of broken up a couple times with different games, which doesn't help. I completely forgot the scalpels in the book thing. So yes, we will be taking a break now, and we'll be playing this one, the Twisted Karma and his last boy. I wonder if there's going to be any characters that resemble the Von Karmas from the main series. That could be interesting with the Karma title. Cosmic eggs again. Oh no. So we're going to play God of War tomorrow and Wednesday, and then we'll be on a break until January, and then we're going to come back with Pokemon God of War and Jedi Fallen Order. That's my plan when we come back. So we have 2 more streams this week, so you can catch me then. Thank you for watching this another adventure of the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. And if you treated some lovely voice acting at the end. Thank you for watching, everyone. So Ace Attorney will be back in some stage. But streams will resume tomorrow with God of War. I've cried the last 2 God of War streams. Nothing between Crimbo and New Year's either. It depends what you can watch, Noodle, if I'm being honest. It depends what you're able to be there for, because I like doing them for you. So maybe. So we'll see. You can be there? Okay. Maybe we'll have discussions then. But yes, we have 2 more streams this week. Tomorrow and Wednesday. God of War. And then maybe some between Christmas and New Year's then. Maybe. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a lovely evening. And I'll catch you tomorrow for some God of War, where I will probably cry again. Let's go. Have a lovely evening. See y'all later. Might be here tomorrow. Catch you on Wednesday then, Farrell. Huh? Have a good night, everyone. And we'll do some streams between Christmas and New Year's then. Sure. See you later. Goodbye.